beliefs. We'd like to thank Lee Lefferer and Common Craft Videos for allowing us to use this presentation tool to a former AP Humanities class of how American history made a great country to say thank you.
Texas versus Johnson.
The First Amendment grants freedom of religion, press, assembly, and most of all speech. However, the freedom of speech was a much debated topic in the Supreme Court case Texas versus Johnson. At the 1984 Republican National Convention in front of Dallas City Hall, Gregory Lee Johnson protested against Ronald Reagan's presidency by leading a crowd march through the streets of Dallas, Texas. At the end of the march, Johnson burned a flag protesters chanted. The state of Texas then convicted Johnson and fined him $2,000, as well as sentencing him to 1 year in jail for desecrating the American flag, which was a law Texas had created. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, however, reversed this case, which then led it to the steps of the Supreme Court to then be judged. During Supreme Court proceedings, the justices considered cases from the past, beginning with the Boston Tea Party, when American colonists protested against Great Britain's taxes by dumping the tea into the Boston Harbor as a form of expressing their beliefs. The next case was Schenck versus the U.S. They ruled that Schenck was not protected by the First Amendment, and he was not allowed to send out letters urging draftees to ignore the draft of World War II. The third case considered was Yates versus U.S. case of 1957, when 14 communist leaders planned to overthrow the U.S. government and form it to become communist. They were protected by under the First and 14th Amendments. The last case was Cohen versus California, where the defendant was convicted of breaching the peace when he wore a jacket that conflicted with the U.S.'s requirement that young men serve in the military. They ruled that his actions were protected by the freedom of speech. These cases helped convince the justices that the First Amendment protected Johnson. In the end, the justices drew to a 5-4 decision on June 21, 1989. That paraphrased decision, symbolic speech, no matter how offensive to some, is protected under the First Amendment. Although many dislike this decision, due to this ruling, this case assured the citizens of the U.S. that even if they carried out an unpopular idea that might also be offensive, they wouldn't have the fear of being put in jail. In 1989, Congress attempted to overrule the decision by passing the Flag Protection Act of 1989. The purpose of this act, to quote from the act itself, to protect the physical integrity of the American flag against mutilating, defacing, burning, and trampling, etc. People, instead of putting an end to burning flags, just burned even more to protest against it. Eventually, this act reached a Supreme Court case in United States versus Eichmann, which was then invalidated on First Amendment laws. In an effort to outlaw flag burning, the U.S. Senate tried to pass a new amendment on December 12, 1995, that would give Congress the power to outlaw as well as end flag burning. This, however, failed, and was the last big effort that opposed and wished to end flag burning. Ultimately, this case deserves a grade of a B on several levels. First of all, it's B for bad. Just kidding, it's B for best. Kidding again, it deserves a B because it settled conflicts that questioned the power of the First Amendment. After this case, it was now clear that any act of speech, as offensive as it may be, would be protected under the First Amendment. In contrast, this case deserves a B because although it solved conflicts over flag burning is protected by the First Amendment, this case began a period of new laws and amendments trying to be created to stop flag burning. This short period involved many uprisings, protests, and especially more flag burnings. Yet, even through this period, the Union was made more perfect. Protests and flag burnings decreased. Johnson versus Texas benefited the country through the expression of his beliefs.